To make this cake, I will be using these two cake pans. They are 6-inch in diameter. I will also be using a sports ball pan set, plus cupcakes to go around the skirt of the doll. After filling my cakes with buttercream, now I am going to cover the entire cake with buttercream also, starting from the top and working my way down and to the sides. Then I will either freeze or refrigerate the cake along with the cupcakes for at least 10 to 15 minutes. After taking my cake out of the fridge and it is dry to the touch, I will now proceed to measure the diameter. This particular cake is 14 inches in diameter. That's how big my circle of fondant should be, 14 inches. It is now time to roll out my fondant until I reach the size that I'm looking for, which is 14 inches in diameter. And so now what I'm trying to do is cut a perfect circle more or less. If you notice underneath this mat, I have placed a cake dividing wheel, which has different diameters of circles. I am cutting and stretching until I reach my desired diameter, which is again 14 inches. As I stretch out my fondant, I am also touching the surface of the fondant to see if I could find any air bubbles. Should I find any air bubbles, I have to pop it with either a pin or a needle. This fondant is fine, there are no air bubbles, so I'm going to proceed to give it the final trimming and then move on to covering the cake. I'm just dusting some cornstarch with powdered sugar over the surface, so that way when I lift the fondant onto my rolling pin, it does not stick. It is important that when we are covering the cake with the fondant, to make sure that the fondant drapes down around the cake and covering all the sides of the cake. Another thing is that you should not stretch your fondant as you cover the cake. You should always try to push the fondant to the cake instead of just pulling it down. You should press in the fondant to the cake. That way there will be no tears on the fondant. Continue to press the fondant onto the cake like so. So that way there will be no tear at all. Your cake should not have any tears if you press the fondant onto the cake instead of pulling it down. You should open the skirt as needed and position the fondant so that way it'll automatically fall into place. So now that the cake is covered with the fondant, I will proceed to the next step. Cut the outer edge of the skirt of the fondant all around, just the outer edge. Then I will push in the remainder, push it into the cake board. This way a crease will be made between the fondant and the cake board. And now we give it the final cut at the very edge of the cake, making sure that our cutter does not touch the sides of the cake. And that's it. Using the fondant smoother, smooth out the sides very gently. Smooth it out as needed. And that's it. We put a little bit of buttercream over the cake board just to fasten the cake circle where the cake sits. We now place our cake on top of this board. And there it is. We will also fasten the cake cups as we did the cake to the cake board using buttercream or icing at the bottom and placing the cupcakes on the cake board. And to fill in the gaps between cupcakes, I'm going to use large or giant marshmallows. This way there will be no gaps and I will be able to decorate right over the marshmallows. Using tip 127 and buttercream, and I'm just going to pipe some ruffles all around the cupcakes, going up until I reach maybe halfway the main cake, all filled in with ruffles. So now it's time to take the doll and undress her from the clothes that she came with and replace that with a top made out of fondant. I will not be using the legs. I will eliminate the legs and I'm just going to place the torso of the doll in the cake. Just taking a long knife right in the middle of the cake I will make it whole so that I could push down the torso of the doll. I will take a small piece of fondant and fill in the gap that was created when I inserted the doll, just so the doll does not move back and forth. Next, take a small piece of fondant and a heart-shaped cutter, cut through, and that will be used for the dress, for the top part of the dress of the doll. Using a ruffle cutter, I will cut some ruffles and use that for the dress, for the top part of the dress as well. And now we will continue to embellish the dress using flowers made out of fondant. I will be using two plungers, one medium and one small. The flowers that are going to be in the medium size are going to be for the bottom part of the skirt, and then the smaller flowers will be for the top part. Let's cut a small ribbon and place it around the waist of the doll. So now we will attach the larger flowers to the bottom part of the skirt stick number 5 and buttercream. We will pipe a small dot right in back of the flowers and attach them to the skirt, and that's it. We will do this all around the skirt. And onto the smaller flowers, we will take each flower, we will take some edible glue and just wet the flowers in the back with a brush and attach it to the upper part of the skirt. So now we will give the doll a bow right in back of her waist. Let's embellish the flowers, piping a small dot of buttercream with tip number 5. So we will also give this doll a necklace using tip number 5 and buttercream. We will pipe small beads all around her neck. And to really give it some bling, let's put a sugar pearl right at the bottom of the necklace. As we can see, she definitely needs some earrings. We will take a small piece of fondant and a small sugar pearl. We will place the pearl right on top of the fondant. and we will then attach that to her ears. And she also needs a purse. Let's grab a piece of fondant, roll it out, grab a square cutter, cut a square, trim it a little bit on the sides, and on two of the sides you are going to stitch it with a stitching tool, make a handle, and attach it to the dress by her hand to give the impression that she is carrying the purse. And now she is all set and ready to go. And now, as you can see, this is the finished product. We have created a señorita ready to go to either a quinceañero or any other party. This has been all for today. I hope that you have learned something. I also hope that you share and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching. I will see you next week. In the meantime, may God bless you.